and white and black remind.
You've listened to the new McCartney album, right?
Yes, very introspective and sentimental.
And, today we aren't just doing a standard review for you. We are looking at a man who is actively fighting the concept of time.
Right, trying to answer that massive question of how much of our musical heroes belongs to their history and, how much belongs to their present.
Exactly. Because The Boys of Dungeon Lane, which is Paul McCartney's first studio work in 6 years, forces you to confront that directly.
It's this completely unvarnished look at a post-war Liverpool childhood. You get the resilience of his parents and those early adventures shared with John Lennon and George Harrison.
Yeah, and what is so striking right out of the gate is that he isn't just dipping his toes into nostalgia. He builds an entire visual world around it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You see it instantly in the aesthetic of the album.
The artwork is stunning. For those of you who haven't held the physical copy yet, it's this incredibly vibrant collage. It gives off a distinctly modern Sgt. Pepper vibe.
But instead of historical figures, it's deeply personal.
Right. You have these contrasting, colorful layers featuring striking images of a young Paul McCartney juxtaposed right next to an older Paul McCartney.
And tucked right in the corner, almost hiding in plain sight, is a Dungeon Lane street sign.
Which immediately anchors you in the geography of his youth.
Exactly. It evokes the exact imagery of his childhood home at 20 Forthland Road. You look at the cover and you can almost picture that classic brick facade.
Oh, yeah, the sturdy black iron gate, those thick green hedges. It sets your brain up for the precise emotional frequency before you even hit play.
But here's the thing that completely threw me. The title of the album isn't some new concept he just dreamt up.
No, it's not. The title comes from a single lyric that he has literally carried in his head for 35 years.
Which is just wild to think about.
I know, right? It originated from a 1991 demo titled In Liverpool. There was this one specific line, walking with the boys of Dungeon Lane aimlessly towards the cast iron shore.
I have to pause on that because the mechanics of human memory, especially a songwriter's memory, are just bizarre. How do you hold onto a random scrap of a lyric for over 3 decades?
You'd think an artist of that magnitude would just discard the cutting room floor material.
But it's almost like that image of the cast iron shore was a locked door in his mind, waiting for him to finally be old enough to have the keys to open it.
That's a great way to look at it, because the cast iron shore is a very specific, gritty geographical reference in Liverpool. It's not some sunny, idyllic beach.
Right, it's industrial, it's tough. It speaks to the post-war resilience of the people who raised him.
And when you are 50 years old, which he roughly was in 1991, maybe you don't have the necessary distance to fully unpack what that resilience meant.
But at 83, the perspective shifts entirely. The scrap of lyric becomes the anchor for this massive retrospective project.
Which brings us to the studio, because the way this project actually came to life is a story in itself. He teamed up with producer Andrew Watt.
And I am obsessed with the dynamic of this collaboration. You have this octogenarian rock god and a much younger, highly sought-after pop producer.
But it didn't start with some formal, heavily negotiated boardroom meeting,
No, it started with a cup of tea. Just the two of them sitting down, exchanging ideas. And this perfectly illustrates how he still works.
Yeah, Paul McCartney is just casually holding a guitar, absentmindedly playing around while they talk, and he stumbles onto this unfamiliar chord sequence.
So to his massive credit, doesn't just say, oh, that's nice. He stops the conversation entirely and insists they record it right that exact second.
He recognized the lightning in the bottle. That spontaneous jam session is what produced the album's opening track, As You Lie There.
The speed of that execution is crucial. When a producer catches an artist in a purely subconscious flow state, you bypass all the overthinking.
And what makes the track so impressive is the sheer musicality on display. Paul McCartney played the majority of the instruments on this album himself.
That includes laying down those incredibly intricate melodic grooves on the bass. His instrumental proficiency hasn't dulled a bit.
Okay, but this is where I need to push back on behalf of everyone listening, because we have to address the elephant in the room here.
Oh, the vocals.
Yeah. If his musicianship is still that undeniable, why are the reviews regarding his vocals so fiercely divided?
Well, because we are dealing with the undeniable biology of the human vocal cords. Over decades of relentless use, vocal cords just lose their elasticity.
Right.
The muscle tissue can atrophy, and the vocal folds, often experience what is called bowing, where they don't close completely when vibrating.
Which results in a loss of power, a thinning of the tone, and just a harder time sustaining pitch. It is a biological inevitability.
Exactly. So listeners are essentially split into two camps on how they process that reality. On one side, you have fans and reviewers who hear a man who simply does not miss a beat.
They are listening through a lens of profound love and gratitude,
Right. They hear an 83-year-old icon who is still generating new melodies, still vital. They hear the joy and the compositional brilliance.
But the second camp, the audiophiles and the purists, they are tripping over the technology used to mask that biological aging.
You mean the pitch correction?
Yeah, the very heavy, very audible pitch correction used on tracks like Days We Left Behind. And to me, it creates this bizarre, uncanny valley effect.
Wait, how do you mean?
Well, think about it like digital Botox on a photograph.
Okay, like that.
When you look at a highly edited photo of a face, the wrinkles are gone, the skin is perfectly smooth, but your brain instantly registers that something is artificial. The texture of a lived human life is missing.
And pitch correction does the exact same thing to audio.
Exactly. It takes the voice and snaps it to a rigid digital grid. It forces the note to be mathematically perfect, but in doing so, it irons out all the micro fluctuations.
The breathiness, the slight wavers that actually give a human voice its soul.
It just steamrolls the character right out of the performance.
That is a perfect analogy. When an older voice, which naturally has more vibrato and instability, is run through that aggressive algorithmic grid, the software has to work overtime.
And you start to hear the digital artifacts. You hear the robotic, synthesized edge.
Right. It's technically on pitch, but it lacks that raw human texture. Now, to be completely fair, Paul McCartney makes no secret of using this technology to keep the momentum moving in the studio.
But that brings up the larger thematic question of how an artist chooses to age in public, because his instinct is to violently fight the physical aging process.
He refuses to concede an inch of territory to time. Let's contrast that with Tony Bennett's final album, Love for Sale.
Oh, yeah. He recorded that album while living with Alzheimer's.
When you listen to it, his voice is noticeably fragile. It is unmistakably the voice of an old man. But he leaned completely into that reality.
And the result was devastatingly beautiful precisely because of that fragility. He allowed the listener to hear the miles on his vocal cords.
I immediately think of Johnny Cash's American recordings or Bob Dylan's recent work. They entirely abandoned the pretense of technical vocal perfection.
Johnny Cash's voice was cracked, broken, and gasping for air on his cover of Hurt. But they built the emotional core of the music entirely around that raw, deteriorated damage.
They made the rawness the entire point of the art. But Paul McCartney refuses to do that. He doesn't want to sound like a fragile old man.
He wants to hit the notes exactly as he always has, even if he needs a digital safety net to get there.
And if you want to understand the why behind that studio decision, you have to look at his relentless identity as a live performer. Why use a digital net in the recording booth?
Because he flat out refuses to step down from the stage, which defies absolutely every law of physics and logic.
It really does. Look the sheer stamina required for his recent Got Back tour. We are talking about 2+ hour sets.
He is playing 50-song set lists that spanned his entire career. Most 25-year-old frontmen can barely sustain a 50-song set list without blowing out their voices.
It is a marathon runner's level of endurance, and it is standard industry practice for older singers to drop the key of their classic songs by a full step or two.
Right, because the vocal cords just can't reach the high register anymore. Elton John does it, Billy Joel does it. It's a necessary adjustment.
But he still performs Maybe I'm Amazed in its original key.
Now, yes, he uses vocal assistants and backing tracks to help carry the heavy lifting live, but the ambition is insane. He still reaches for those screaming high notes and, "Hey, Jude!"
He is up there night after night trying to conquer the summit of songs he wrote when he was in his 20s.
And his drive goes far beyond massive stadium tours where you can rely on screens and pyrotechnics to distract the audience.
Oh, definitely. Look at his recent intimate triumphs. He played a show at the Bowery Ballroom, which has a capacity of just 575 people.
And the Fonda Theater, which holds about 1,200. The psychology of choosing to play a 575-person room at his level of fame is fascinating.
When you're playing a stadium of 80,000 people, you are a speck on a stage. It is a spectacle.
But when you play the Bowery Ballroom, the audience can see you sweat. They can hear every breath you take. There is absolutely nowhere to hide.
In a room that size, the acoustic energy of the space demands total vulnerability. This is an 83-year-old man who is actively seeking out that pressure cooker environment.
Because he simply loves to perform. He thrives on the visceral feedback of a live audience. He is generating massive organic demand everywhere he goes.
You have to understand, he isn't coasting on legacy nostalgia, where people politely golf clap for the old hits. People genuinely want to hear the music he is making right now.
He remains the most productive older musician in popular culture. And when you look past the debates about pitch correction, you realize the songwriting itself is totally undiminished.
The Boys of Dungeon Lane is structurally brilliant. You get the bombastic Wings-style rock arrangements, those soaring Beatles-style harmonies, and moments of quiet intimacy.
So the true creative leap of this album isn't about hitting the perfect note. It's his willingness to finally sit still with his own history.
To wander down Dungeon Lane with total honesty. For anyone wondering, I can assure you this is absolutely not a swan song.
No, it's the sound of a man who is still working things out in real time, which leaves you with a lingering question to consider.
As we age alongside the artists we love, how does the passage of time change the way we hear our own memories?
And ultimately, is technical perfection ever as important as the emotional honesty of a song?
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, everyone, check out our new book. The title is Beatles Rewind, of course, and it's for sale on Amazon. And believe it or not, the ebook is free. You can download it for free right now from Amazon and start reading it on your phone, tablet, or your computer.
Yep, it's also in paperback and hardcover, but those are kind of expensive.
But worth every penny. Until next time, when you listen,
Your mind conducts its own symphony.